Hello everyone and welcome to part 13 of my Dark Souls video walkthrough, where we'll be finishing up Blighttown. Firstly though, Mr. Wolf here is going to show you how to bypass much of the last few episodes. This is a way to get to the swamp in Blighttown without going through Lower Undead Berg, the depths, or the first part of Blighttown. This requires the master key to get into the Valley of Drakes through the door I just crossed. And then you can enter this rather large cavern, and this will take you into Blighttown as well. This is supposed to be the way you take out of Blighttown, but you can also use it as an entrance if you have the master key, or if you want to go via Undead Parish. Then you don't even need the master key. Now you have these huge undead barbarian guys here. And especially if you're going here really early, these are quite formidable. They have a lot of HP and not insignificant amounts of damage, but they are quite easily parried, so that's a good way to deal with them. They do drop a lot of dung pies, which are possibly useful in certain scenarios, which I might show you at some point, but generally more of a garbage drop. They can also drop their weapon, the large club, but that's quite rare. This shout does nothing, by the way. They just sometimes do it for a bit. And yeah, except for that one mess up in the beginning, they're not really difficult to parry at all. And they're also susceptible to bleeding, so the claws that I'm using on this character have a bleeding effect. Which caused this funny effect where during a riposte animation, the enemy is supposed to really only take damage from the riposte. And the funny thing is that a claw does 2 hits of damage during the riposte. As you could see, there's that one really tiny amount and then the much bigger hit afterwards. And so the 4th hit triggers the bleed, which does count and does do the bleed damage. As you saw, that second riposte did a little more damage. However, the enemy is also tagged to be immortal during the riposte, because the normal damage of the riposte doesn't kill him, so he's basically given invincibility, and during his animation nothing can happen to him. But the bleed effect actually pushed him over the edge, so he was dead, but the game thought, I'm gonna have to do the getting up animation anyway, because that riposte wasn't enough to kill him. And that just leads to this funny effect where the enemy gets up, looks like he's going to be fine, and then just instantly dies when the animation is over. It's a case of being dead but not being aware of it yet. And I think it just looks funny. And we'll see this plays again from the other side towards the end of the episode, but just descending a lot of ladders here. Blighttown is very vertical, at least the first part, so we are descending a lot to get down here. And then we've reached the swamp area, and we'll be at the bonfire in just a second. Now after this, there's one other thing I want to show you, which has to do with a certain NPC that you can get to spawn in Blighttown. And I will be showing you this on the thief, Snatch, because he might actually want some of the weapons to be bought from that merchant. And for this, we'll have to go to Darkroot Forest. And in the middle of this area, which again, I'll get to this in more detail later on, there's an NPC.
Is it not so that thou art new? Thou fared well to find me, but cometh thee not for the grave of Sir Artorius? My advice true. Forget this. The legend of Artorias art none but a fabrication. Traversing the dark, 'tis but a fairy tale. Have thine own respect. Go not yonder knocking for nothing, I say. Well, indeed, thou art a strange one. Nevertheless, I feel some liking for thee. I'm Alvina of the Darkroot Wood. I command a clan of hunters who track down defilers of the forest graves. What dost thou say? Wilt thou not join us? Oh, yes, I believe we would suit thee well. I am very glad. And now thou art one of us. Let us establish a covenant. And here taketh this ring. If thou wearest that ring, it allows for thine summoning. If mine senses reveal intruders, then I will summon thee. Fend them off, sir. I beseech only this. I shall summon others who will, by their honor, work tirelessly with thee. Thou shalt receive great reward, and whatsoever ye shall pillage will be thine own. A true agreement, not so? But thou must heed the golden rule. The clan is thine own family. To thine kinsman forever stay true. Darest not in any attempt to double-cross. Have no doubt, such wretchedness never will we tolerate. Ah, thou dost cometh. How fares ye? My hopes for thee are of the highest. Do not such a hope shatter with foul disproportion.
And that's it. Now this makes the NPCs in the forest become non-hostile. And it also makes one additional, or rather two additional NPCs spawn, but only one of them is relevant for right now.
I've heard all about you. I'm Shiva of the East, captain of the brigade. Let's teach you the clan basics now, as there's no time to chat in the midst of fighting. Except there is little in the form of rules, you hear? Fight and hunt as you like. Whoever's fastest gets the prey. That's the way we do it. Only, don't forget what Alvina said. Traitors aren't given a second chance, for any reason. That's about it then. Don't worry. It's a good old time, isn't it? Great to have you with us. Good hunting to you.
And then there's his bodyguard who's somewhat invisible back here, but he doesn't speak. Now you need to have this conversation finished in order to get him to spawn in Blighttown, so that's why I wanted to show this to you quickly. Again, this area will be covered completely later on. And now to the standard walkthrough of the area. So firstly, going back from the bonfire up this tunnel. This is the bottom of the shaft that we went into on the descent quite a few times. There's a chest with a dragon scale. You can use this to upgrade the Drake Sword if you really want to, but as I've said previously, I would strongly advise against using it at this point. And then if you're in human form and you step out into this area even just a little bit, you will trigger an NPC invasion. It takes a few seconds for it to actually start, but just walking out for a little while is enough to trigger it. There's also two mosquitoes from the back of the swamp that are making their way towards you. There's really not much you can do about this. The mosquitoes do not respawn indefinitely. There's, I think, 7 spawns in various locations. But yeah, you will have them with you on you at the same time as Man-Eater Mildred. Now she does decent damage, but isn't that difficult to defeat. She's also easy to backstab, as well as fairly easy to parry. The mosquitoes tend to actually be the more annoying enemies, because they can be quite hard to hit and they're a lot faster. In addition to the souls she also drops 3 humanities and the butcher knife. This is a decent-ish strength weapon, with the special ability of absorbing a small amount of HP whenever you hit an enemy. It's not usually enough of a heal to really be handy, but something to note, it does restore a little HP. About 7 points per hit, or thereabouts. There's some conditions where it might be a little more, but generally not very much. Now we'll go and loot the swamp. These insects here can't spit fire, but they have no poise, so they're very easily interrupted. And that makes them somewhat harmless. The first part of this also serves as a sort of farming guide for large titanite shards, which you can now farm a little more efficiently than at the slimes earlier, the depths. So, yeah. These leeches here can drop large titanite shards as well as green titanite shards. They will either drop one large shard or 5 green titanite shards. And yeah, the green ones are needed for certain special upgrades, magic, fire, divine. And the large titanite shards are used for standard upgrades from +6 to +10. And that's why I advised you to get your weapons to +6 before going down here. Because getting back up to the blacksmith is a bit of a hassle. And if you bought the smith box, you can go from +6 to +10 just yourself at the bonfire. The leeches aren't generally that difficult. They have a lunge attack which can be a little annoying, but aside from that, it's not very dangerous. You also note that I'm basically poisoned all the time because of the swamp. The poison doesn't do much, as you can also see. It takes my health down very slowly and I need to heal from time to time, but it's not that threatening, so removing the poison every time it's applied would be a huge hassle and you would need a ton of moss clumps, and it's just not important enough. Now there's a tree route that I just kind of ran past earlier, which you can run up, but this leads to an area that is best explored later. So again, I will just refer you to a later video where I will be clearing and showing that area in its entirety, but not right now. And as always with enemies being so close together, it's very important to walk forward slowly, because that way you can almost all the time get the enemies separately. There are not many occasions in this game where groups of enemies are guaranteed to aggro at the same time. And in this case you can get these guys all separately if you really want to. And that corpse has another large titanite shard on it. This is the game subtly hinting at you that you might want to upgrade at some point. They are also quite weak to sorcery. Now these 3 here in the back are guarding another weapon, which, just like the butcher knife, has a small health absorption effect. It's also, I think, 5 HP per hit, so it's not hugely viable to replace your healing, but it's a nice little addition that can be nice to have. So it's a more of a dexterity weapon than the butcher knife, which is definitely a strength weapon. Now let's see. These leeches here, you wouldn't need to kill, they're not guarding any items, but if you're farming them for the shards, then you obviously want to kill these as well, because the more you kill, the greater your chances of getting drops, obviously. If I were farming, this is the point where I'd run back to the bonfire and reset the area. There's one more leech, but he's a little out of the way, so I don't usually bother with him. Here we have a large soul of a proud knight, and this is the leech I was referring to. But it's quite a trek to get to him, so I think it's more efficient to leave him be. And over here, in this corner, hidden away slightly, is yet another poison resistance armor, and the pyromancy poison mist. And the armor set there is the tattered cloth set, which has insane poison resistance. It's the pyromancer starting armor, so it's also got decent fire resist, but the poison resist is definitely its most valuable feature. So if you're still running around with your warrior armor, this is yet another chance to replace it with something that's a little more poison resistant. Now around this corner there's an enemy, but you can't really see him. I've already increased the brightness on the video, but the lighting in this area is a little inconsistent. So there is an enemy there, you can hear him and see him throwing stones at me, but we'll have to wait for him to step into the light before we can see him properly. It's just the way that the lighting engine works, it's nothing to be done about that. I should note that there is a misconception that because high poison resistance gives you a longer poison bar, as you could see earlier, people seem to think that this means the poison also lasts longer. That's not the case. When you get poisoned, depending on the source, it has a set duration. Just it lasts for X seconds, X minutes. This doesn't depend on how long the bar is. If the bar is longer, it just basically ticks down quicker. But in the end, it takes exactly the same amount of time to run out than if it's a short bar. That's why it's also not helpful to replace your high poison resistance with low poison resistance armor to make the bar shorter so it runs out faster. It doesn't work that way. Higher poison resistance is purely beneficial. And earlier that first boulder guy also died, but had the standing up animation before. And these guys are maybe a little more of a hassle to fight, but just like the larger club-wielding barbarians, backstabs are easy enough. You can't parry them though. And they are guarding the Great Club, a somewhat heavy strength weapon that doesn't have a moveset, at least that I really enjoy, but the damage it has is pretty nice for a pure strength build. It packs a massive punch. Okay, there's 3 enemies here, 3 of the boulder barbarians. And you can again pull them all separately. If you just run in and fight one of them, then the other 2 will aggro. But aggro one of them, pull them away, and you will have a very easy time defeating them. They are quite slow, especially their getting up animation. You have plenty of time to get back around him and set up another backstab. If you time it just right, you can actually make it so that you get an instant backstab change from the first one. As you can see right here, he didn't have a chance to do anything. But even if you don't time it right, which is, it's a little finicky, I don't usually manage it either, you're still behind him, his first attack will miss, and that gives you plenty of chance to just set up another backstab. Now, putting the next one. Again, they look impressive and their boulder throwing can be a bit nasty, but if you take them on, not as a group but individually, they really aren't much of a threat. The reason I'm clearing them is because there's an NPC I want to talk to, and depending on just how it plays out, you might have them aggroed and they might ruin your day. And that's his pathfinding being very clever again. On flat open terrain, the pathfinding is fine, but when there's obstacles in the way, like all these tree roots here, it gets confused very easily. And that's particularly noticeable in the first part of Blighttown, where you frequently just randomly get souls from something because it randomly walked off an edge. And it's often difficult to see which particular enemy it was, but just randomly get the souls. Possibly even an enemy you haven't seen up to that point, just it died. And yeah, the mosquitoes are a constant annoyance here, because they just keep spawning and their aggro range is massive. So they are quite the hassle, especially if you're running on builds without poise, because then even those tiny attacks can interrupt you, and it's just not nice having them in the way. You could clear them all beforehand. There's a limited number of spawns, as I said, 7 in each location, but that just takes a while. I decided to just risk it here. Flight patterns can also be quite annoying.
A mere undead, yet you can see me. Fascinating. I am Quelana of Izalith. I am not often revealed to walkers of flesh. You have a gift. Are you too one who seeks my pyromancy, like Salomon? Yes, of course. It should be expected. Very well. You shall be my pupil, but to pursue my pyromancy, you must give something up. Are you prepared to do this? Long ago, I accepted another pupil like yourself. Over 200 years ago, there was a man almost as bungling as you. In your world, he was called Salaman, the master pyromancer. The little rascal really made something of himself. Pyromancy is the art of invoking and manipulating fire. But remember one thing. Always fear the flame, lest you be devoured by it and lose yourself. I would hate to see that happen again.
Now, she sells advanced pyromancies. I won't be able to afford all of them, but I'm getting combustion, great combustion, and in just a moment I'm also getting the fireballs up above. She's also the only one who's able to upgrade your pyromancy flame beyond plus 15 to the highest level.
Now go. Whatever you do, do not crack and go hollow, lest my time spent on you be wasted.
But this costs a huge amount of souls. I think 500,000 in total. And I will not be able to do that for a little while. But now I've upgraded my spells a little, and I'm also going to be spending the souls I get in the near future on upgrading the glove. Sadly, the next boss is very resistant to fire, so it's gonna have to be the hand axe. Anyway, after this round, going back to the bonfire and exploring the elevator leading out of here, because there's some goodies to be had there. Now I will be showing you the other NPC that I triggered on the thief in just a moment. So here we are.
Hello again. Strange to meet away from the clan and the forest. But while you are here, how about some equipment? I love collecting these things, but I can only keep so many. And you know, you are a friend. I'll sell them cheap.
You can get a gesture from him, and he also sells some rare weapons. I'm particularly interested in getting the washing pole. Not sure if I'll use it, but I want the option. And I'm also getting a Uchigatana.
I see. You have a sharp eye for trinkets. Suits me fine. I'll be seeing you.
Now we're going up this ladder. And taking the elevator up. Now this is the last time you will have to deal with the blow dart snipers, but this is also a much more annoying location than it was in Blighttown, or in the earlier parts of Blighttown. They were quite easy to separate there and easy to get to. In this location we're about to see, it's much harder not to get toxic. First, we go along here, across these tree branches. Be careful not to fall off, it can happen quite easily. Because back here there's a corpse in a chest. On the corpse there's the crimson set and the tin banishment catalyst. And inside the chest we have a sorcery called Remedy, which is basically a spell that cures poison. It's not very useful, but just for the sake of completeness I'm going to show it to you. Now there are no items up these two ladders here, but there is a possible snipe location which I messed up in this with this character, but you can get one of the blow dart snipers from up here, depending on just how it plays out. Again, sorcery is very effective here. Even the weak soul arrow can really do a lot of damage. And across there, it's very difficult to see, but that guy, if he hadn't hit me, I could have hit him and killed him. But he now fell off, and he's still sniping at me from further down below on that ramp. But I can't log onto him, and that makes it rather impossible to snipe him. Because manual aiming at that distance is not really a smart idea. So I missed that chance, but he fell down, so that still makes it a little easier. And I'm not going to switch characters for the rest of the video, because the randomness of the nature of this next bit meant that it would have all been a little inconsistent. So anyway, I could snipe him from here. We were fine. But there's a lot more of them in that little area, so that'll be quite the hassle. And there's not really any very safe ways to go through here. This is the way I usually do it, and it kind of works out, but it's still really annoying. This one you can usually get behind, even with a melee weapon, but the ones from the side can still get you. That's why I would usually advise going for a backstab, because that way the backstab animation will make you immune to being hit by, well, anything. And then you have time to get out of the way. And this guy fell down. He would usually be up here on this ledge where I'm standing, or slightly more to the left, but thereabouts. And again, this happens a lot. They do drop off and climb up ladders again. It's just all very inconsistent. But you'll go through, and since they don't respawn anyway, you can always just do suicide runs if you're really struggling. Now here's one more. And I'm about to pick up an item in a moment, which is I guess the final Firekeeper soul, or at least the last one for a while. Now in Firelink Shrine there was that golden knight who also helped us with the gargoyles, and who you could summon for Gaping Dragon. Once you've picked up this Firekeeper soul and the one up above in Undead Parish, he will kill the Firekeeper in Firelink Shrine, making that bonfire unavailable. So picking this up makes that questline progress. I've already killed him on a few of my characters, and on the other ones I'm going to show you what happens after he's killed the Firekeeper. But be aware of this. If you don't want that to happen, this is the latest point where you can kill him. By kicking him off the ledge, I've shown you that. It's the easiest way. If you don't, then he has now killed the Firekeeper, and the only way to get her back is by going through his questline and completing it. Which is not the easiest of encounters. There's ways to cheese it, which again I will show you, but yeah, if you don't want that to happen, do not pick up that Firekeeper soul before having killed him. And yeah, if you do the next boss, I believe that will also trigger the event. So if you decide you want to kill him, then kicking him off the ledge works at any level anyway, so might as well do it early and be done with it. Okay, now I'm resetting at the bonfire and getting ready for the boss fight. I died once on this character, but going to make very quick work of her. And again, there will, as always, be the full boss video later on. But for now, there won't be. And because I had the souls, I decided to just quickly level up. Just being a little indecisive here. But yeah, using this character worked out nicely. It was a fun fight. Now we're just crossing the swamp, and if you stick to the right here, then the three boulder guys to the left won't even aggro. So this is the best way to get to the boss, because the boulder guys take a long time to fight, and yeah, you can completely avoid it going this way. Now there are two enemies in this cave here. There's no reason to kill them. If you kill them, then some very annoying enemies will spawn, and there's really no benefit to it. So just leave them be, they don't even follow you. Okay, so at this point I'm switching over to the red tearstone ring. This ring increases my damage a lot once I'm below 20% HP. And you will see when I show you the actual fight. Again, I died the first time around, but the second one went fine. You will see how massive the damage gets. So I'm just waiting for the poison to tick down. I'm also going to summon Manita Mildred. You can summon her as soon as you've defeated her invasion form. Then her summon sign will be available here. And she's just going to be used as a meat shield. Her damage is not relevant. Otherwise, you would still want to remove the poison for the fight. But yeah, let's do the summon and then enter the fog gate straight away. Conveniently, if you enter the fog gate before the summon, or before the summon finishes at least, then the boss won't get the additional HP, which is kind of cool. And it's not like it was going to be a difficult fight. Obviously at this hit point, at this low health, I cannot afford to be hit, but the boss takes a lot of damage from my spells, and as I said, you'll see that in just a moment. It's a little bit of a glass cannon thing, but I quite enjoy it. Camera is not behaving very much here, but for the first part I'm really just trying to get some distance and trying to get her to aggro onto Mildred. Usually this boss will take quite a while because you just don't have great damage at this stage, but using all of the damage boosting stuff I have for sorcery, the Dusk Crown and the Bellowing Dragon Crest Ring and the Red Tearstone Ring, what you just saw was my weakest spell. Now let's see what my strongest spell does. A lot. Obviously this comes at the downside of having almost no HP, but it is still quite cool. And that's the boss dead. so no worries. And again, obviously this is not something you would, not a way to fight him that I would recommend, or fight her rather, that I would recommend on a first playthrough. But the full boss guide will cover the boss in a much more complete way. As always, I'm trying to get the boss kill into the playthrough as well for people who don't want the boss guides or don't need them. But I want to get interesting or quick boss kills into the videos. And now, pulling this lever is ringing the second bell of awakening, so we're getting a nice cutscene, which also tells us where to go next. This is Sen's Fortress. We've already been outside the gates of it. You might remember that there was the Mushroom Knight who kept complaining about the gate being closed. Still closed. That guy. And now the gate is no longer closed. And yeah, this is a not so subtle hint that that's the direction we're supposed to go. First, since I've gotten the bonfire in the swamp anyway, I'm also going to get the next bonfire here. If you didn't get the swamp bonfire, then you could now bone back up to Firelink maybe, but since I wanted to show you everything in the swamp, I didn't want to skip that bonfire.
Oh dear, what have we here? Are you a new servant? But you have no eggs. Ah, no matter. Go along and have audience with our fair lady. I pray that you will mind your manners.
And yeah, that's really about it. There's a firekeeper here, but she's not going to talk to us. Yeah, I'm sorry it became so long, but there was really no good way to split it. I hope you found this helpful and informative, and that you got something out of it. As always, feedback is highly appreciated. Have a good day, and bye bye.